Before I tell you how my own son tried to take everything I spent 40 years building, imagine this. You are sitting in the same chair you have sat in for 30 years, the one beside the window where your wife used to read in the evenings, and your son slides a document across the table toward you like it is nothing. Like it is just paperwork. Like the house behind you, the land your father left you, the savings account with your wife's name still on it. Like all of it is just a formality waiting to be transferred. He is smiling. His wife is smiling. And you are still wearing the same black shirt you wore to your wife's funeral 11 days ago. I did not sign that paper. I did not scream. I did not throw them out of my house that evening. I picked up the pen, looked at my son's face, and set it back down quietly. What he did not know was that my silence was not weakness. It was the sound of a trap closing around him, and he had walked into it himself. Before the story gets darker, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments what city you are watching from. Because betrayal does not always come from strangers. Sometimes it sits at your kitchen table, calls you Dad, and waits for you to stop breathing. My name is Harold Nazir. I am 63 years old, and I have lived in Memphis, Tennessee for most of my adult life. I worked as a civil engineer for the city government for 31 years. Early mornings, long site visits, weekends spent reviewing drainage maps, while my colleagues were watching football. I built a career through precision and patience, the same two qualities I tried to pass on to my children. My wife, Saida, and I raised two sons in a brick house on Elmwood Drive that we bought when the neighborhood was still considered a risk. We renovated it room by room over 20 years with our own savings and our own hands. By the time I retired, that house was valued near $700,000. We also owned a small commercial plot on the edge of the city that I had purchased in my 40s as a long-term investment. Saida passed away from cancer 18 months ago after an illness that lasted 2 years. She was the steadier half of everything we built. Her death left a silence in that house that I was still learning to live inside. I believed, because I needed to believe, that my sons would help me carry that silence. I was wrong about one of them. My older son, Imran, is 38. He is sharp, well-dressed, and has always known how to read a room. He works in real estate development and married a woman named Zara 4 years ago who understands property valuations the way some people understand weather, always calculating what is coming next. In the first months after Saida passed, Imran called every few days. He visited on weekends. He sat with me and drank tea and asked how I was sleeping. I was grateful. I told my younger son Bilal, who lives in Houston, that Imran was handling everything beautifully. The first small thing I noticed came about 6 weeks after the funeral. Imran asked me, very casually, whether I had updated my will since his mother passed. I said I had an appointment with my attorney. He nodded and said, good, just making sure everything is in order. It was reasonable enough that I filed it away. But Zara had been very quiet that evening, the kind of quiet that comes from someone listening more carefully than they want you to notice. The questions began arriving in a pattern I only recognized looking back. First, it was the will. Then, 2 weeks later, Imran asked whether I had considered adding his name to the commercial plot for estate planning purposes, just to avoid probate complications. He used words like efficiency and protection. I said I would think about it. The third conversation was about the house itself. He suggested that transferring partial ownership to him now, while I was alive, would reduce inheritance taxes significantly. He brought printed documents. Zara sat beside him with a pen already uncapped. I asked for time to review the papers. He said, of course, no rush, but that these things moved faster when families acted together. That phrase, families act together, began appearing in every conversation. It was doing work I did not appreciate until later. Around this time, I noticed Bilal had stopped receiving information. Imran had positioned himself as the point of contact for family updates, and slowly, quietly, Bilal had been moved to the outside edge of decisions. When I mentioned this to Imran, he said Bilal was busy with his own life in Houston, and there was no reason to burden him. I almost accepted that, almost. The discovery did not come from a dramatic overheard conversation. It came from a bank notification on a Tuesday afternoon. I received an alert on my phone that someone had requested my account statements from a branch I had not visited in 2 years. I called the bank immediately. The manager, a careful woman named Mrs. Okafor, who had handled my accounts for years, told me that a man identifying himself as my son and power of attorney had visited the branch that morning requesting documentation. I had given Imran no power of attorney, none. I asked Mrs. Okafor to flag the account and make no further disclosures without my direct written authorization. Then I sat in my kitchen for a very long time. I thought about every question he had asked over the past 3 months. The will, the plot, the house, the tax efficiency, the family's act together. I had been watching a door, and he had been coming through the window. When Imran arrived that evening with more paperwork and his easy smile, I offered him tea, asked about Zara, and said nothing about the bank. My face gave him nothing. Inside, I was already moving. The next morning I called my attorney, a man named Raymond Chaudhry, who had handled my property documents for 15 years. I told him everything in sequence, the questions, the documents, the bank visit, all of it. Raymond listened and then said 7 words that reorganized my entire understanding of the situation. He said he was building a case for control. Raymond advised me to act immediately and quietly. That same day I visited a different bank branch and opened a new personal account, transferring my primary savings under fresh authorizations. I contacted the Land Registry Office, where I still had professional contacts from my engineering years, and placed a voluntary restriction on both the house deed and the commercial plot, meaning no transfer could be processed without my direct in-person confirmation. I retrieved every original document from the house safe, placed them with Raymond, and changed the safe combination. I called Bilal that evening and told him everything. He listened without interrupting and then said, "Dad, I am booking a flight for Friday." I told him to come quietly. I did not want Imran to know the room had changed. For the first time in months I slept through the night, not because the danger had passed, because I had stopped waiting for someone else to protect what was mine. Imran arrived on a Saturday morning with Zara and a folder thicker than any he had brought before. Bilal was already sitting at my kitchen table when they walked in. I watched Imran's face register his brother's presence and recalibrate in real time. He recovered quickly, the way practiced people do, and said it was good that the family was together. He sat down, opened the folder, and presented what he called a comprehensive family estate plan, a series of transfers that would move the house, the commercial plot, and the primary savings account into a joint family trust with himself as managing trustee. He said it was the most tax-efficient structure available. He said Bilal would of course be included as a beneficiary. He said I would retain full residence rights in the house for my lifetime. He slid the signature page toward me with the pen already uncapped, the same way Zara had done weeks before. I looked at the page. Then I looked at my son. Then I placed Raymond's letter on top of his folder. The letter outlined the voluntary deed restrictions already in place, the flagged bank account, the documented unauthorized inquiry, and Raymond's formal notification that any further attempts to access or transfer assets without my direct legal authorization would be treated as financial elder abuse under Tennessee law. Zara's hand moved away from the folder. Imran's breathing changed. I said only this: I heard every question you asked me. I read every document you brought. And I built a career reading the difference between something designed to help and something designed to transfer. You chose the wrong profession to try this with. The room was very quiet after that. Raymond filed formal documentation with the county the following Monday, preserving the deed restrictions and recording the unauthorized bank inquiry. Mrs. Okafor submitted a written account of the branch visit to the bank's compliance department. Imran did not pursue further legal action. Raymond told me later that 2 consultations he had sought with other attorneys had gone nowhere once the deed restriction history and the bank record were presented. There was no case to build. Bilal stayed for 2 weeks. On the last evening before he flew back to Houston, we sat on the back porch the way our father and I used to sit, without needing to fill the silence with words. He said he was sorry he had not been closer in the months after his mother passed. I told him proximity is not only geography. He had come when it mattered. That was the thing Imran had never understood about family. It is not about who manages the paperwork. It is about who shows up when the ground shifts. Imran and I have not spoken since that Saturday morning. Zara sent one message 2 months later, suggesting that misunderstandings between fathers and sons were common after loss, and that healing was always possible. I did not respond. What I carry now is not anger. Anger requires energy I prefer to spend elsewhere. What I carry is a specific sadness for the boy who used to fall asleep in the back seat of my car on long drives and whom I would carry inside without waking. That boy was real. The man who came to my kitchen with a folder and an uncapped pen was also real. I cannot reconcile the two, and I have stopped trying. Some evenings I sit in the chair beside the window where Saida used to read. The maple tree in the front garden has started going orange at the edges. The neighbor's dog barks at the mail carrier every single morning at the same time with the same level of outrage as if it has never happened before. I find that oddly comforting. Life continues with its small, reliable details, even when the larger ones have broken. What I know now is this. Grief makes a person visible in ways they do not always choose. It shows what you have, what you built, and how much of it you are too exhausted to guard. People who love you see that and draw closer to help carry the weight. People who have been waiting see it differently. They see an opening. My son did not become someone I did not recognize overnight. He became that person slowly, one reasonable question at a time, until the questions stopped being about me and started being about what I owned. The difference between love and calculation is not always loud. Sometimes it is just a pen, already uncapped, sliding across a table toward a grieving man who was never supposed to look too closely at the hand that pushed it. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and leave your city in the comments. It means more than you know. I will see you in the next one.